This offseason certainly felt like it lasted forever, which meant I had forever to talk about this Georgia Bulldog football team. And the thing that I think was repeated the most by me, Ryan Curley from Dawg Post, welcome you in. I think that what I repeated the most over the course of the 7-8 months was Georgia's pass rush was a mystery. Georgia's defensive front was a mystery, that it was probably going to be the weak point of the football team if it did not improve during the offseason. And now we've seen Georgia play Marshall, Austin Peay at Tennessee, and then a loss at home to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now we have seen that come to fruition. That Georgia is lacking an effective pass rush. That Georgia is lacking a defensive line that is disruptive. I think that you look across these 4 games, and that's been the weakest point of this Georgia Bulldogs football team. It is what it is. I don't know how much it can get better over the course of the season. I think, to me, that is also a mystery. But what I thought over the course of from January to August, it came true. And it's proving to be a problem for this Georgia football team. 5 sacks in 4 games. 1 against Alabama, 1 against Tennessee, which means you get 3 between Austin Peay and the Marshall games. Kirby has been asked about this. Kirby Smart has been asked about this. Quintavious Johnson's been asked about it. Jordan Hall has been asked about it. Players on the defensive front. And they don't seem to be concerned about it. At least they're not acting concerned about it. Kirby famously saying, we don't really care about the sack numbers. We care about, are you getting pressure? We care about other measurables that he just won't indulge with us as to what they are. So I don't know what measurables Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann, Trey Scott, that defensive staff is using to determine success on the front. But I can tell you this. Go rewatch the Alabama game. Not getting much pressure on the quarterback. That's the measurable to me that matters, is Ty Simpson was largely unaffected. Now, there is credit to Ty Simpson. I think there's credit to Joey Aguilar that is due for each of them for getting the ball out quickly. There's credit to the offensive coordinator, Grubb, at Alabama. There's credit to Josh Heupel and his offensive staff at Tennessee for, hey, look, we're going to dice you up. We're going to hit the zones. We're going to hit the holes in the zones, and we're going to get the ball out in a couple seconds. Part of that is really good on Aguilar and Ty Simpson, and part of that is good on the offensive coaching staffs, which is difficult to defend, right, if they're doing that well. But it would not be as easy if there was a dude on Georgia's defensive line or on the edge that is making things happen and that is being disruptive. So far, outside linebacker, hybrid linebacker really kind of plays that will role. Chris Cole, right, true sophomore, he has gotten 3 sacks himself. 3 of the 5 belong to him. The other 2 belong to inside linebackers Raylan Wilson and C.J. Allen, which means that among the defensive line and the edge rushers, not a single one of them have gotten to the quarterback in a month of football. I think that Glenn Schumann kind of said it best. We can't use stats to justify a lack of meeting the standard. Well, this is not Georgia's standard, okay? Even back when they didn't have Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Trayvon Walker, Nolan Smith, Adam Anderson, right? The guys, Azeez Ojulari, before that. Think about it, with Lorenzo Carter, Leonard Floyd. There were guys getting pressure to the quarterback before Georgia became the juggernaut that it was from 21 to 23. It's Georgia's biggest problem right now. Gunnar Stockton played well enough to win that game. All right, he didn't play well at the beginning, but he made some big-time throws in the second half. He avoided pressure for the most part. He did not put the ball in harm's way. Chauncey Bowens ran really well. Georgia ran for over 227 yards against Alabama. They ran for over 100 yards more than the Crimson Tide did. Still lost the game. Georgia allowed 0 points in the second half. They shut Alabama out in the second half. The Tide didn't move the ball near as well. So for an entire half, the secondary really held up against really quality receivers in Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, and Blake Horton Horton. I'm blanking on his first name. Isaiah Horton, who played really well against the Dogs on Saturday. A really good offensive group of receivers. Georgia's secondary got better as the game went on. DeMello Jones played for an Ellis Robinson that was making mental errors, that has made errors kind of throughout the course of the beginning of the season. Daniel Harris not really getting on the field, kind of showing you, okay, that means DeMello Jones and Ellis Robinson are probably playing a little bit better than Daniel Harris in practice. Linebackers played fine. Georgia held up against the run pretty well. The defensive line did. But when Ty Simpson was back there, he did pretty much whatever he wanted. Now, his completion percentage wasn't fantastic. 24 for 38 is not fantastic, but it's more than good enough to get the job done against a defense that just wasn't getting to him. He got hit a couple of times, but not enough. I've spent too long talking about the last couple of days, but think about this offseason. They lost, obviously, Jalen Walker, Mykel Williams, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, just a lot of guys on the front, Chaz Chambliss, people that had sacks, people that had more than 5 sacks. They lost that. They lost those caliber, those guys that are that good at getting to the quarterback, good at disrupting things in the backfield. And then they lost Damon Wilson, the guy that was supposed to be next man up, had 3 sacks himself last season. He goes to Missouri through the transfer portal, and all of a sudden Georgia's in trouble. Quintavious Johnson, a guy that was a true freshman last year, projected to start. Gabe Harris Jr. projected to start. He was going to start anyway. On the inside, you don't really have someone, right? Joseph Jonah-Jonier is essentially replacing Mykel Williams. But look, Mykel Williams was a top 15 pick and a guy that was elite in run stop and a guy that has all the potential in the world to be a really good pass rusher as a hybrid defensive lineman. They lost all that. They saw how thin they were during the spring with Quintavious Johnson and another guy from his class, from that 2024 class, in Chris Jones, being their starting offensive or outside linebackers, especially with Gabe Harris, who's kind of a hybrid defensive end outside linebacker, not playing during the spring. They saw that, so they go out and they get Ella Madozie from the transfer portal, really athletic edge rusher that led Army in sacks last season and led them in tackles for loss. He's got 3 tackles. He's got 3 tackles in 4 games. Gabe Harris has 7 tackles. No sacks, no tackles for loss. Christian Miller, interior defensive lineman, potential first-round pick, they said, according to PFF and all those types of websites. He's got 3 tackles. Their leading tackler on the defensive line is Jordan Hall with 9. Elijah Griffin has 8. This defensive line is not getting it done. It, to me, is the weakest link of this football team, and I think it's a big reason why Georgia lost that game on Saturday night against Alabama. Now, there are some other glaring numbers, the third downs, right? But when Ty Simpson's got plenty of time on third down, they made it easier for Georgia. They made it easier for Alabama. They made it easier for Ty Simpson. They knew this was going to be an issue heading into the season. And I think that when you talk about a Georgia football team, when I'm around a program like this all the time and just see, hey, look, they figure this out, and they figure this out, and they rarely don't figure it out, right? It seems like they haven't figured this out yet. And I don't know that they're close to figuring it out. Kirby Smart talked about, look, we got all sorts of blitz packages. We got this and that. We've got all sorts of fancy things we can do to affect the quarterback. That's what he says. The players aren't doing a good enough job of doing that. And Georgia's hurting because of it. It's clear that Georgia is hurting because of it. I think it was a problem against Tennessee. I mean, it was arguably worse against Tennessee than it was against Alabama. And this offense, look, Taylor Taylor dropped the pass. Nate Frazier fumbled. Ellis Robinson jumped on top of the pile. They went for it on 4th and 1, didn't get it. They throw a screen pass on 3rd and 10 to Cash Jones. They don't get that. A lot of things went wrong for Georgia on Saturday night. And you could say, hey, look, if that one thing happened, maybe the outcome's different. If that one thing happened, maybe Georgia wins. But at the end of the day, if they don't start getting to the quarterback, they're going to start struggling more and more. They're going to face quarterbacks that are faster than the ones they've seen. They're going to face Jackson Arnold. They're going to face Arch Manning. They're going to face Trinidad Chambliss. If they make it to the SEC Championship, they're either going to have to play one of those guys again or have to play a Marcel Reed. Guys that are just even more difficult to get to because of their athleticism. Georgia's got to solve this problem if it's going to win trophies this season. It's my take. Pass rush needs some work. I think it's the biggest area that's lacking right now for the Georgia Bulldogs. What do you think? Link is down below. Thank you for watching.